Oh, what's good, guys? Welcome to today's episode of what do we even call this episode, bro?
No,
but
I mean I have an idea, but would be very disrespectful.
yeah, okay, stop. All right. Anyways, guys, welcome. Today we're basically gonna be going over the replays of this $1,200 Ironman that we played in yesterday. It was basically we put up $600 versus the Pranky Boys was also put up $600. And if you guys are not familiar with how Ironmans work, it's basically each team has three different decks. Both players have to decide which deck they're sending in first, and then if that person loses, they can send in any of their remaining decks in to play against the person who is still remaining from the other side. You keep doing this until each side loses all their lives, in which then you would win the Ironman. It's a really fun format. All three of us are usually in court together to play, and we come up with plays together. In this Ironman, I teamed up with Nesh and Jesse Cotton against like the Pranky Boys and their squad. I believe they're from Australia. So yeah, we're gonna be going each of the game one by one and our thought process and how we made our decisions, our plays, and maybe even showing you some of the alternate lines that how we would get punished or how we got rewarded for playing in X, Y, and Z sequence. So yeah, let's do it. I have Nesh with me
Let's go,
to go over the
boys. Let's go.
plays, and yeah, let's run into
This is N3SH.
it.
Sorry,
So
bro. It's my favorite opening.
we win the dice roll here. We're playing Despias, and our opponent is. We don't know what they're playing at the time. I'm going to refrain from showing my opponent's hand just so you can really understand our thought process as we're playing, right? It only makes sense because we don't know their hand. And when we watch the game back showing both players' hands, I feel like it's less informative because you don't really understand what's going through our heads. So we're going to just turn off their hand and we can look at it after the fact. But for this, we won the dice roll, and we have Polymerization, Branded Opening, Snow, Tragedy, and Forbidden Droplets in our starting hand. So I think the first sequence that we immediately thought of, the first thing that went through our minds is whether or not we use Branded Opening, and if we do use Branded Opening, what do we pitch?
Yeah.
Um, so that's
So,
that's the first decision tree we have here.
mhm.
Yeah, Nesh.
So we decided to play around the roll because like makes sense because this not doesn't only play around roll but also plays around Vader on Albert because Droll cannot be used in draw phase and Vader can only be used in the main phase.
Yeah.
So by doing this sequence in draw phase, you never get punished. But now the issue is, do we discard Tragedy or we discard Snow? I
Yes.
believe we ended up to discard the Tragedy because we wanted a name in the graveyard for a branded red possible play.
Yeah. Um, So I agree. Like I think like immediately we went opening pitch Tragedy because like Nesh said we want to set up Brendan Red. Um, next is the next decision tree we have is we're obviously going to be using Aliber, but whether or not we actually activate Tragedy, right? Because Tragedy has an effect where we can actually banish it from the graveyard to reset a Branded Spell and Trap. I think in this sequence it's not as important, but that ability to do that actually comes up quite often, so it's something you always have to consider. Um, so and then obviously also how do we orchestrate the chain links? Those are the other factors that we have to decide. Like these are like kind of like the nuances that seems like super trivial or very obvious, but these are kind of the things that you have to carefully weigh because there are certain you'll see that some of the games that we've been playing, we actually choose to not use Tragedy. And in some of the coaching sessions I've had on Metafy, I actually try to like tell my students that sometimes getting the plus off Tragedy isn't as important, and the ability to reset a branded spell and trap is actually more important. And being able to distinguish when and where you do that is really really important. I think here we'll
Yeah.
go Aliber 1. I think Tragedy 2, right? Um,
Yes, like you usually keep the Tragedy effect for to set only when you already have access to other libido.
yep.
As or when you already have access to the fusions play.
Yeah. But now the next step, right? The taking a step further is what do you add off Aliber? I think this is where um people just adds branded fusion. which makes sense here because we don't have access to it. But we actually play branded loss as well, and that's something to also factor in. Like, do we add branded loss? Um, but I think here we just add branded fusion just because I like
Yes.
there's no other starter plays. So let's just run.
Yes, I believe the line to add the branded lost, I would have went for that line if we had Albaz in the end.
Yeah,
Because no one can stop polymerization, and you can search the Omni monster negation of the Free Brigade Mercurier.
yeah,
So if I had an Albaz in hand, then I would go for sure for the branded lost in this position. Because
yep,
this plays also around Ash.
yeah. Unfortunately, this hand like folds to an Ash Blossom. Like if this gets Ash, like our plays are super limited. Um, like you could make it like I think we discussed potentially trying to play around it, but it was like really suspect on how you would do it. Like you would have to go to main phase one. Like maybe I'll show an alternate line like in a different replay on Dueling Book to show how you would do it. But you actually could try to play around Ash Blossom, but it's a little bit you have to play the hand a lot worse. I think we just went for Branded Fusion and just try to basically pray it resolved. Um, and I was like here we sent Albaz and Mercurier, and you might be wondering why. Basically, the most obvious choice is to send like a dark monster, but we wanted to send a dark monster that adds value here. And the only dark monster in our deck that has value in the graveyard is Mercurier because it has an effect where when it gets banished, it can add any fallen Albaz monster or a monster that mentions Albaz in its text. So like the reason why we sent Mercurier is because it's the only other dark monster that gets value here. Like we could like sending Tragedy makes no sense because we already activated Tragedy's effect. Sending ad libitum makes no sense because we already added it off Tragedy. Sending a light monster makes no sense because we already have Snow in our hand, which can easily be dumped off Lubellion. So we didn't actually really want it. We didn't actually really want like to send like a Snow for an Albion line. So that's why we sent Mercurier.
There is also an additional, an additional route we could have took,
Yep.
but it was like assuming it doesn't have Ash in hand.
Yeah.
And like, don't use Tragedy in the graveyard to add the Libitum, and then you send Albion with the fusion, and then you send the branded in red with Albion, and then you set it with the Tragedy, which is a
Yeah.
line we took later on in the Ironman. And
Yeah.
this would have also made sense, but reading your opponent not having Ash doesn't make any sense. And also the argument of having Snow in hand was making Mercurier a sort of recovery in our next turn, so it was like the most logic
Yeah.
choice.
Um. So here we summoned Lubellion. Lubellion is gonna be Chain Link 1. It's gonna discard the Snow. Uh, Here discarding Snow is really advantageous for us because Snow actually has enough cards to banish so that the Lubellion can dodge Impermanence or Valor. So that's why we didn't really care that Lubellion was only Chain Link 1. The only card that stops Lubellion here is Bell. But against Valor Imperm, because we ditched Snow for cost, it actually would be like it's like very much fine for us because we can banish the Lubellion, the Aliber, and like 5 cards in the graveyard to summon the Snow, and then Lubellion still resolves. So yeah, there's also like Gamma too if people main decks it, but it was mainly only Bell or Gamma that stops this. So discarding the Snow here is also really important because it can like dodge any targeting again Lubellion, and Lubellion can still resolve if you banish it for cost because it's shuffle back from the banish. Um, Here we're gonna shuffle back the Albaz and Lubellion, making Mirror Jade. We're gonna activate Mirror Jade's effect, and this is a line that like comes up when you play Polymerization. So I would definitely pay attention here. But what we're gonna try to do here is we're gonna use the Mirror Jade to banish our Aliber. And then use Polymerization to fuse with the Ad Libitum and the Mirror Jade to make Drago Sapelia, which is an additional interruption. And then use the Ad Libitum to reborn back the Mirror Jade. This line does play into Nibiru, but we do have a recovery line that will be really cool to beat Nibiru, and I think this will explain a lot of things about how end of phase trigger effects or like how end of phase effects works and in the sequence
Yeah.
in which you can activate them, which I think would be really important. We're gonna set our forbidden droplets and attempt to leave main phase 1. When we try to leave main phase 1, our opponent has a nib for us. which rightfully so. He nibs us, and then at this point in time, um, we have
We
uh
discussed.
we have a
Mhm.
couple decisions that we can do, right? So, Nesh, you want to explain this part?
Yeah, okay. So Mirror Jade can be used again because it was summoned at the back from Ad libitum.
Yep.
So in order to gain another plus from Mirror Jade, we send another fusion target, which is in this case is the bro. I remember only the Osage name, the Bastard Dragon.
The
Anyways,
Titaniclad, yeah.
Titaniclad, yes. So we send Titaniclad because it has an effect in the end phase as well, in order to special summon or to add the Albads to the end,
Or summon it from the deck.
and
Mhm.
or some special summon or add it from the deck, the Albads. And then like you guys will see how we sequence the plays in the end phase in
Yep.
order to gain a sort of advantage.
Yeah. So Chainlink 1 is Nibiru. Now we're gonna go Chainlink 2 Mirror Jade. We banish our own Dragus Apelia here because we want the Nib token to be as high as possible on our side of the field. It's like super dumb, but it's actually really important to take notes here. That like, having a bigger token is more relevant, so banishing Draco's Apelia here with your Mirror Jade is more advantageous. Like I said, super small, but very important things to keep track of, right?
Yeah.
My opponent's gonna nib us, put the token in mid defense. That's fine. And now we're gonna go to end phase. So when we go to end phase, here are some really important things that comes up. When you have effects that activate in the end phase, like Albion, Titaniclad, um, they are first of all not they don't go on chain in response to each other. That's very, very important to keep in mind. They actually are activated at separate points in time within the end phase. So you can go to Titaniclad effect. If that resolves, then you can activate Albion's effect. They don't go on chain in response to each other. They're each like separate effects that activates in like when the turn player has priority, basically. That's very, very important to know. It's like a lot of people do not know this. But those end phase triggers, or however you want to call them, basically activate in their own chain. So you might be thinking, like, what's our next sequence here? Why did we send to Titaniclad? And the main reason is because we want to summon Follow of Albaz from our deck. But the issue then becomes, how are we going to get a card to discard for Follow of Albaz? And you're going to see the next sequence we do in order to make that play happen. So first, we're going to activate Albion's effect. And the reason why we start off with Albion's effect is because we want to banish it later for Snow, but we want to resolve Albion's effect first, which is if it was in the graveyard during the end phase, you can set or add any branded spell or trap. So by using Albion's effect first, we now can banish it for free off Snow and not worry about like the repercussions of not being able to activate the effect to set or add after. And now the question becomes, why do you activate Snow, right? The reason
Yep.
why you're going to activate Snow now is because of Tribrigade Mercurio. So I guess, Nesh, if you want to take over here.
Okay, so Trabicate Mercurial, when this card is banished for an effect, you can add from your deck to your hand a Fallen of Albats or a monster that mention it. Okay, except a copy of his card. So we have another target in the deck, and it's Albion, the Shrouded Dragon,
Yep.
which mention Fallen or Albats in the text. So yeah, so we have our discard folder in the end phase.
Yep. So we're going to basically use Snow to be able to grab an extra card to pitch for Albaz when we summon it off to Titaniclad in order to fuse with our opponent's Nibiru in order to make Albion and then activate Albion's effect.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing to note here is that another ruling interaction that's also really important in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh that people might not know is that you can banish tokens for cost. This is a very like not obvious thing, but just keep in mind that that is completely legal and that's a play that you can do. And especially if Snow becomes more popular, that's something that you should definitely know. So we're gonna banish the following: one Mercurier, obviously. We're banished the Poly. We're gonna banish the Albion Dragon because we already used this effect. Banish the Mirror Jade, a token from the board, a branded fusion, and a branded opening. We want to keep Tragedy, Ad libitum, and Titaniclad in the graveyard. And then we're gonna summon Snow. We're gonna activate just Mercurio's effect and not Snow's effect because If you book the Nibiru, you cannot like you cannot poly with your opponent's face down cards. So here we're gonna have the Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, and then in a new open game state, we're gonna activate the effect of Titaniclad, and that's gonna allow us to summon Albaz from the deck. We're then gonna use Albaz's effect to discard to fuse with monsters from either side of the field, including this card, to make Albion Dragon. And then we're going to use Albion's Dragon's effect to basically fuse by banishing the Titaniclad and the Albaz to make another Mirror Jade. So, in totality, we ended on a live Mirror Jade with a Forbidden Droplet and a Branded in red. You can Droplet the Snow and the Albion to get the pluses off it at end phase. You can brand it in red the ad libitum, so you get a pop and Mirror Jade's effect. And not only that, you get to draw extra cards so that the Fairy Tale Snow will still be live because you're going to be able to send the snow for cost off droplets. And this is essentially like almost 1, 2, 3, the libitum, bring back a body, that's 4. The cards you draw off Chimera is 5 interruptions through Nibiru. And I think it's really cool that we got to show this play because this is something that is super not linear. Like it's a play that like definitely requires you to have a like full understanding of how end phase trigger effect works and all that good stuff. So I think this is a really good game to just go over. The opponent's going to basically concede because they don't want to show us what they're playing. And now we're going to go to game 2. I think in this scenario, when we were siding, we only sided in 3 cards because it's a blind side. We weren't really sure what the deck was, but our engine is like very powerful at cracking boards, so we weren't really too worried. But you have to keep in mind, now that we're siding with like uncertainty and like not really knowing what your opponent is playing, I think, Nesh, correct me if I'm wrong, what did we put in this matchup? I think I remember.
3 draw, I think.
It was just 3 draw, right? Yeah.
I think 3.
Yeah, it was just 3 draw, and like it wasn't a bad pick to put in 3 draw because the opponent was playing 40 cards. It's very uncommon to see 40 cards in a deck in modern format in this current format. So it's very likely that they could be playing Flunders, right? Like so Droll is a very good card in that. They could be playing 40 card Prankiz as well with like the rights package, and Droll is also very effective in that matchup. They are called the Pranky Boys, so you know it's either Prankids or Flunders were our guess, realistically.
Yes.
So that's why we thought Droll was like a very good, a fair side into this. So that's what we did. Obviously, our opponent is going to go first. So our opponent's going to go normal summon Nerval. Seems like he's playing Tri Brigade. So, and our hand is absolutely cracked. So let's just see how he goes through his sequence. He goes Nerval into Fractal, activates Fractal, sending Kit and sending Karaz. At this point in time, yeah, what's up?
To be honest, I was expecting them to send the Mercurial with that Kit.
Yes, but because they didn't, we were so confident that they have a Revolt set. Like the fact that he sent an additional Karaz almost confirmed that there had to be a Revolt in one of their hands. So at this point in time, we automatically assumed that one of the cards in the hand was a Revolt. There's only 3 unknowns at this point, but for sure one of them was a Revolt. Now they went Fusion Destiny, which is like, sure, that's fine.
And I remember screaming at this point because he pitched the Celestial from the end.
Yeah, if he's Celestial from his hand. So at this point, it's like literally Revolt, DP unknown. And it's really important to like distinguish what interruptions your opponent potentially can have because if they're known, it's a lot easier to sequence your hand as optimally as possible to beat them. So that's why like at this point in time, like we were just like really excited because we only see 1 unknown at this point. Summons DP, set 1. Okay. Another really important interaction here is it's Revolt, which I'll hover over it, as you can see, is Revolt. Good guess. DPE, unknown. We were really excited because thankfully they didn't set an additional card. What does that mean? That means that they don't have a floodgate. Like, if they set an additional card, we were actually kind of scrambling because DPE Revolt Floodgate is really, really hard to beat because the extra turn pass through a Floodgate is basically means death for us. But because there's a
Yes.
card in the hand, then we had to play around a hand trap. We don't know what hand trap it is, but we were pretty sure it's probably a hand trap. Because if it was a Tri Brigade monster, right? You would normal summon Nerval. Like he would try to do more basically.
Yes. Yes.
But at this point, it's like it has to just be a hand trap or something else. Not
Yeah,
sure, not sure
like
what it is, but we'll figure it out as we play, basically.
if it was a 3 Brigade or Beast Warrior monster, he would add Keras. So it's not DD Crow. So we know it's not DD Crow. The entrap we have to play around, it's not DD Crow because he would pitch it for Keras in order to banish two. In order and go for a verteplay, right? Or for something else, you know,
Yep.
for another line, in my opinion. Like a Keras would have been the line which like you pitch a Winged Beast or Beast Warrior monster, or they would have thinked more.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact they didn't even think about it makes me think it's not like a Winged Beast or a Beast Warrior monster means no DD Crow. So we don't have to play around DD Crow. That's
Yeah.
the first assumption we have to make. The
Yep.
second assumption is we are able to play around the Droll, so Droll doesn't punish us. Also, if he uses Droll, his revolt is gonna be much worse because then he cannot add with the he cannot add with
Revolt. I mean
Nerval,
Revolt. Mm-hmm.
Nerval, and he cannot use Fairy Sheet. He doesn't have Fairy Sheet, but yeah, I mean,
Yep.
you got it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in our draw phase. We're posed with the same question. I think we're definitely gonna use opening because we don't want Joel to be a Punisher. So now the question becomes: do you pitch Tragedy or Chain? Um, and
Yeah,
and I think most people would pitch the Tragedy here, but we actually decided to pitch the Chain.
yeah,
And the main reason is because getting access to the poly allows us to play through Ash Blossom a lot better. Because, like I said, we don't know what the last card in hand is, and if it's an Ash Blossom, then we really, really need polymerization. So that's exactly what we'll do. Like, we could easily pitch Tragedy. Seems like the obvious choice. But pitching the Chain, I think we decided would be a lot better. Because it allows us to grab poly. And if he polys, if we're able to grab poly and summon Aliber, the polymerization will force DPE on the Aliber because they don't want us to threaten Chimera. So like it's just like a very good like there's just like no other way to get chained to the graveyard without using droplets like raw and just pitching chain, which is like 2-. So at this point, we made a small mistake in the chain link here, and it's super subtle. The issue is we made Chainlink 1 Aliber, Chainlink 2 Chain.
yeah. Should have
Uh,
been Chili.
it should have been Chainlink 1 Chain, Chainlink 2 Aliber because we already have Fusion, and we already have all of the pieces, all of the components of what we need to play. So Aliber is not important to resolve, but
Yeah,
Chain
but
is.
what's the punishment there?
Yeah, like if he ashes the Chain here, we're still fine. Like obviously we're still fine. Like I don't think they would ever ash it because they would wait for Fusion. But it's just something to still consider. Um, so we had Patrick, and here we had Brandon Loss. So we there's something we were just experimenting with, and we thought why not try it in an Ironman for $600, but we figured we'd try this out. And we added Brandon and Loss because here in the situation, there's no other branded card we could have gotten. We already have branded. We used branded opening. We already used red. We already used fusion. Oh, we already have access to fusion. Or we already have access to red. We have opening. So the only other card we can add at this point in time is like Loss. And Loss here trades with DP. And if it trades with DP, we're like pretty okay with that. So that's pretty much what's gonna happen next. We go to main phase 1. At this point in time, we have a couple options. Do we activate Patchwork or Brand Fusion first? I think we went with Patchwork first because we just want to secure polymerization in our hand. Just to make sure that if we have it in our hand, like we can have like the other, like we just want to see if polymerization is going to our hand because the guy could be holding Ash Blossom for Brand Fusion.
Yep.
But we want to just secure like poly in our hand. So like there's a world
Yep.
like the guy just ashes Patchwork too, and obviously that's fine. But we definitely just want to secure the poly in our hand first, so we just went patchwork. I don't think the sequence here matters as much, to be quite frank, but I think we just wanted poly in our hands just so we can see our options from here. Because I don't think we want to go branded fusion as early as possible. We actually want to use that as our last resort to like kill, or as our last push, because it's a one card
Yes.
push. So
Yes.
I guess it kind of matters in the sense that like we're trying to play as much as we can with the poly, and then we want to use fusion as a last resort.
Okay. At this point in time, as I said, he doesn't have a crow. So the only cards we have to play around are Ash Blossom, Bell, and Baylor.
Yep.
And there is a potential, like, I'm not expecting Nibiru, but might also be Nibiru.
Okay, so we added this. The next step is there's a bunch of stuff we can do. We can go activate poly right now. But he just changed DP to pop the Aliber at that point, so that wouldn't be that good. So I mean, we could always chain dropless for sure, but we would have to send loss from our hand, so it was like kind of weird. So I think we just activate loss just to like force out DP,
Yes.
and that's exactly what we do next. The opponent activates DP here. We're like sure. Next step is I believe activating we asked for res first because
If he doesn't,
if our opponent doesn't revolt the Alberon summon, if we go poly here and make Chimera, there's a really important ruling thing that is important to note here too. Basically when you go polymerization for a Chimera and they chain revolt, like it would be chain link. Like if you go polymerization right here, they have to like chain revolt basically. If they don't chain revolt, then they're gonna get basically bodied because you'll see what happens right here. Yep. So you go poly. The opponent says it's okay, which is definitely a misplay because if you go chainlink one Chimera, and chainlink one Chimera here, and your opponent chains revolt to summon Shurig. In chainlink 2, the Shurig gets summoned off of revolt, and then chainlink 1, the Chimera destroys the Shurig. Because it's not in its proper trigger location to activate, it will not be able to attempt to banish a monster or a card on the field. So definitely chaining revolt here would be ideal, or chaining because they would be able to summon. Poly would happen to summon the Chimera. And chainlink 2, the Shurig would be summoned. So we would activate our Chimera because return player, and their Shurig would still be able to trigger. Unfortunately, they did not do that, so they're gonna get pretty missed. They're gonna get pretty punished here. I guess now is like a really cool part about like most people would go chainlink 1 Chimera and chainlink 2 Tragedy here, right?
yeah.
But I'll let Nesh explain this one why the obvious play isn't necessarily the right play.
Okay, guys. What are our loose conditions, if there are any loose conditions? And which are our priorities right now?
Yeah.
Chimera is not a priority because we have droplet for sure. We really don't care about this Chimera resolving. Our priority right now is resolving Branded Fusion and not getting action. So this Chimera is gonna be a very big Ash bait. To be honest, if he doesn't Ash here, I would assume he doesn't have Ash because giving us a +2, it's very, very neg.
Yeah.
And my omis always negate pot of grid. So, and it's even better than a pot of grid. So I think like this was a very big bait for Ash. If he doesn't Ash here, I would fairly assume he doesn't have Ash.
Yeah. We basically made Chimera chainlink 1 and purposely not activate Tragedy as chainlink 2 because we wanted him to Ash this Chimera. Moreover, having Tragedy not activate means we can reset the branded loss. So by testing for Ash Blossom in this sequence, we can then do the next sequence of banishing Tragedy to reset the loss and go branded fusion, and just like win the game from there. At this point, this card does resolve. Like, he will only chain Revolt here, which is like totally fine. Like, the opponent will just summon 2 bodies, which is going to be Frigid, and we're going to resolve Chimera, which draws first and then pop. Now, a lot of people would pop probably the Frigid because it seems like the most value here, but we actually will pop the Amaraj because we don't want our opponent to draw into an Ash Blossom off the Frigid. So, we just pop the Amaraj here so that the opponent doesn't like randomly draw into like a really good card. So that's why we do it the way we did. And then afterwards, we do the sequence. We let our opponent, dump and add Fractal. We then go through the next sequence of going Branded Tragedy, Tragedy Effect, Reset Loss, activate Branded Fusion, send Snow, send Albaz, search my courier, activate it, banish, summon Mirror Jade. This is only 4 summons, so all we have to do is go to battle phase, banish the Frigid, activate Snow to summon and kill our opponent. There's like 1,000 win games here, but we just want to play around everything. But what if our opponent somehow has Nib, which you'll see he does. So, but yeah.
Slightly misplay. We should have maybe summoned the Snow before
Yeah.
using the effect.
Yeah, we could have maybe summoned Snow before banishing the Frigid, but we had Mercurius to negate this Grandma anyways. I think I was the one that brought that up, where I was like, oh, what if we just like summon Snow first before we banish because it plays around Gamma? But then I'm like, bro, that shit literally doesn't matter. There's no card in the game that beats a Mercurier. So
Yeah.
like it literally doesn't matter. But if we didn't have Mercurier, it does matter. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, but and that's basically gonna be match number 1. So we're gonna go to match number 2 now. And I think we lose the dice roll here.
Yep.
So we have Albert, Patrick, Albaz, Enchantress, Griffin. Not the best hand, but it's good enough. Our opponent starts with, Prankit, Adventure, Chain Blocking, sure. So at this point, against Prankit, it's very important to keep cards of what they have.
You want to show his end in order to commentate like his Prankit's plays, because like
yeah, sure.
a bit sus to be honest.
Yeah, sure. So he went okay, so I think Roxy's is actually fine to summon, but I'm not sure why Fantasy's dumped the place. I would have dumped Pranks to guarantee it, to be honest. And then he went Chilling 1 Dodu, Chilling 2 Rock. He banishes place to draw. Which I'm not sure why that's like I don't think this play was I think they could have sequenced this play a lot better. They're gonna add back 2 here. They don't add, so they were supposed to add back 2 here to guarantee a kid in the hand for follow-up, then pitch one of the kids and then make Dagda if that was their sequence, but they forgot to add back 2. They forgot to add back 2 and then pitch one off Pranks. So now like they don't have guaranteed follow-up.
There is a chance he wanted to play around Ogre. Like the way he sequences it plays also around Ogre. I don't think it's correct though.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to play around Ogre, I think the way you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to keep the place in your hand and then banish the Draco back. Because after you summon Dodo and a kid, you can go Pranks, Effect, discard the place, and then test if they have Ogre. If they don't have Ogre, then you use the effect to add back 2, and then you make Dagda.
Yeah,
it was just bad. It was just bad sequencing. Like the thing is with Prank Kids is it's very technical on how you sequence the play around hand traps. Like you test a lot of hand traps based on the way you sequence your plays. I just think they made a miss here, but it's happened. It's really hard to like know all this stuff, to be honest. So they're gonna have Dagda. They're gonna basically have Dagda lock, shuffle back resources, and yeah, and then we draw Brand Fusion. So I guess I'll keep this unknown still because we're gonna try to navigate through this because we don't know any of the cards in his hand. So there's at this point, we wanted to see. So at this point, there's like draw phase, standby phase. We're gonna see if our opponent activates anything. Our opponent does the in draw phase, activates DP, and then pops their scythe. Now, this is actually very important, like piece of
Yeah,
information for us because understanding how they pop their scythe lock and how they do it early or not is very important, and that information will help us in other games. But in the meantime, I would say just keep that information in the back of your heads, right? Because
yeah,
our
yeah,
opponent
yeah.
chose to do it in draw phase, right?
Yeah, I mean, it also makes sense because otherwise we would start with that Brandon feud.
Yeah.
Like, makes sense the way sequence that it makes totally sense to me.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, but like I think it's just it's interesting to understand like patterns of how people play, especially when they have like floods. Um, so it makes sense. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's just important to know because there'll be a in match 3 we were able to kind of deduce whether or not he had scythe or hard drew scythe based on the way like we went through the phases basically, right? And we'll talk about that game when we get there, but that's why it's important to keep in mind. Anyways, we got Scythe lock, Scythe resolved, DP resolved to come back. So first thing we did was we activated Enchantress because if the guy has Ash Blossom, if the guy has Ash
Yes,
Blossom for Enchantress, we were scooping. There was no way to win. But in the
really?
what's up?
Where are we scooping?
I think so, right?
No.
If this gets Ash, oh no, this was fine to get Ash. Sorry, that was another game. But I think for this game specifically, I think we wanted to test Ash Blossom here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we wanted this to get Ash actually. Um, because first of all, you want to talk about what's going through our head? Because we took
Okay,
like a bit of time to think about how the hell we were gonna win
okay,
this. But
okay.
we had like plays, like we had plays.
We had a little bit of chatting here. Like me and Paken just were discussing,
Yep.
and we were like, okay, if we go for the Enchantress line in which summons the token, the Brave, and the Griffon, it's a losing line
It's a losing
because
line. Yep.
he has DP that's gonna come back, can easily bait the Griffon, and we have nothing to threat his next place. Now, the thing is, then if we don't use Enchantress, that means we have to normal summon the Aluber. Now, do we special summon the Griffon? That's another thing we also think about because
Yep.
if you normal the Aluber, what are you gonna do? Uh, you can Aluber search for branded in red, then you can like crash the Aluber into the site. Okay. And then in your opponent next turn, what you can do is chilling one branded in red to grab back the Aluber,
Mm-hmm.
chilling to the Griffon, and then you can try for a Chimera play. But
Yep.
the issue is then he has still the artifact link on the board. So
Yeah.
having a link to on the board is very threatening for an access code line. At that point, so we also took in consideration, then we should probably out the link to because it's a trading line into unicorn into access code, which makes this game state a lot easier. So we wanted to complicate this game state as much as possible for him. Because
Yep.
then we think about what if we special summon the Griffon and our opponent is gonna use like DP on the Griffon when use Branded in Red, which is the most like logical play to prevent the Chimera. Because there is no way for us to special summon from the deck because we would have used the branded opening,
Yep.
or we might have also branded opening, but it's gonna be like a bit neg, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to predict the fact we have a branded opening when we went for Enchantress. So when we didn't get Ash on Enchantress, that means we don't have a branded opening because we wouldn't normal summon the Aluber. So it was very easy for our opponent, if they knew the matchup, to read the fact we didn't have branded opening in it. Now, if he pops the Griffon, then what do we do with the branded in red? With the branded in red, remember guys, we have fallen on Albans. Like that shit is
Yeah.
insane being in
Yep.
any spot.
So Nesh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna show the sequence on a separate DB just to like visually for people because I think like one of the things you and I talked about is like we so like a lot of these plays we're literally doing in our heads. Like I'm talking about Nesh, Jesse, and I were in a Discord call and we're literally doing these plays like 20 steps ahead, bro. Like we literally talked these entire lines through like in a span of a minute or 2 minutes. Like that's what we were doing. So, but it's obviously like very hard to do that. So we're gonna have to kind of like show you guys like the thought process. So our opponent has a Dagda right here. I'm gonna put this in the form of a token, and this is the Scythe, right? They have a recurring DPE, and we have to contemplate how the hell we're gonna beat this. So obviously, there's a line where we go Enchantress, grabs rights, activate rights, summon Griffin, grab the thing that bounces. You bounce like either the Scythe or something like that. But that would be really bad because then he just sets Scythe and DP Scythe us again. And he has a way to just bait out the Griffin like Nesh mentioned already, right? So let me grab this real quick. So we're not going to use rights because rights just loses us the game. So the next sequence is like, okay, well, this shouldn't get Ash. So let's do the next sequence, right? Is to then figure out how the hell we're going to beat this. If we leave the Dagda up, it's a Link 2. He can easily try to kill us if the Dagda stays up. So, because we know that the winning line is not right summon Griffin. That's not a winning line in this game state. So the winning line has to be Aliber grab red, crash into the Scythe, and then that would be kind of nice because the play that Nesh was talking about is this following sequence. You summon Aliber, add red. Aliber, kill this. You take 400, okay? You set red. And like maybe a bunch of other back row to like play around DP. When your opponent enters main phase 1, you go activate red, target Aliber, and then you chain Griffin. That allows you to basically banish all 3 for a Chimera line to pop and then draw 2. But there's a very, like, we didn't like this play, right, Nesh?
Yes, we didn't like this play.
Because yeah, you want to explain this part?
Because we are, by leaving the Griffin on board, and by setting like the branded in red, we know he's gonna pop Griffin with DP. We know that.
Yeah.
And it's a very big bait. Like we know that DP is not a threat right now if we leave the Griffin on the board.
Yep.
If we don't leave the Griffin on the board, it's not a bait anymore.
Yeah, and like it's also like if we go for this line, that means we don't clear Dagda. That was the issue with this line. It doesn't clear Dagda. So we went for another line that's going to be super winning, and you're going to see very soon how. So the line we go for is we go rights, and we choose not to activate it. We then go patchwork, and we're going to grab Poly and the chain. And then this sequence is going to be wild. So we have to summon Griffin because we know we need to out Dagda because we don't want him to link climb and try to kill us. So we're going to go special Griffin, normal summon Aliber. Aliber grabs red, and we're going to crash the Aliber as planned, right? We're going to kill we kill Dagda, and then we crash Scythe. Take 400. And then in main phase 2, we had to, bro, this thing actually took us a bit of time, but then we had to do something else. We had to set multiple back row because there's an off chance he just snipes Brandon in red.
Yes.
And it had to be 3 minimum. Because what is our next sequence, right? So the next sequence is we want to use Brandon in red. And when we use Brandon in red, he's going to chain to pop the Griffin, right? He has to. Because if not, we make a free Chimera. However, when you add back Albert, because we hard drew Fallen of Albaz, we can actually make Lubellion. And Lubellion can actually make Mirror Jade by discarding like a chain, and that gets us patchwork access. So at that point, we know that like we have a line that baits the DP on the Griffin while still ending on a Mirror Jade that beats any normal summon he can potentially have. He did keep the what is that card called? The Draco back. However, again, it's okay because if he uses his battle phase, the fact that we don't die means that next turn we'll make enough of a big ass push to basically kill him through whatever he has. So that's why in our heads, we're like, yo, it literally, as long as we play to survive his push next turn, we're going to win this match or we're going to win this game. And that's basically we basically identify that our win con is to survive basically the next turn. And the best way to survive next turn is to bait the DP out as early as possible on the Griffin, make a Lubella into a Mirror Jade. The Mirror Jade is super hard to out while setting up advantage for us, and allows us to win on the next turn. So you'll see how we do it. The next thing, the thing that we have to figure out is really difficult is what cards we set. Nesh, you want to talk about this part? Because this card was
Yes.
like difficult.
Okay, so we don't want to set two because we don't want to give our opponent a chance for a 50-50 because he might be crazy and read the Albaz in it. We want to set three because there is no word in which you try to snipe a branded in red with set three. There is just no word, in my opinion, to do that. To be
Yeah,
honest.
it's like
So
because if you miss, you're just bodied, right?
yes, yes. So
And so
at
yeah,
that point, by setting three, if we set three in this position, we know the Griffon is gonna get DP'd like 100%. And when I say 100% shot, it's
yeah, it was
100%.
basically guaranteed. Like we played knowing how he would play basically, and that's what we did.
So
So we had to set three. But now the question becomes, which three do you set? I
I
think that
mean,
obviously it's Brendan Red. It's and we have to keep in mind, guys. We thought he had a prank it this entire time. And we know that whatever we set is getting blown up by access code. It does not matter. Like, so we have to be very strategic about what we set. And so in this case, we're obviously setting red. We're probably going to be setting poly because we have a Lubellion line that discards the chain that grabs patchwork. That grabs us another poly next turn. So now the question becomes, you set brand fusion or rights?
yeah,
We decided to set rights because our next turn, it's going to be way more important to have a brand fusion in the hand rather than the rights. Like, it does more for us. And we're okay losing the rights and the poly to access, basically. And that's what we do.
yeah, yeah. Also because we had
Yeah.
deep chain.
The chain just grabs the poly anyway. So draw phase, Dasher summons the name. That's actually problematic for us because it's an extra 3k body. It trades with the Mirror Jade. It's so annoying, but it's fine.
And also
Uh,
remember, guys, he kept an Nibiru.
yeah, he also kept the Nib, so that's also. Oh, no, this is game one. This is game one with Nib in his main deck. He didn't keep it.
Oh, my bad, my
Yeah.
bad, my bad.
All that for set three. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we have to think about, right? It's like not that easy. Standby, the DP comes back. He goes to main phase one. Now he has to contemplate, right? If you have a kid, if he had a kid here, I thought he was actually going to summon it, bro. And if he summoned it, then our plan worked perfectly. Because if he summons a kid here, we go Brandon Red. He chains DP, kills the Griffin, and then we go Lubellion into Mirror Jade and we cook him.
Yep.
It just turns out the guy just never had a kid. But we'll see. We'll see what he does after. So he decides to go right into battle phase, and this right here was when we were going off in the Discord because we were like, let's go. Because the moment the guy went into battle phase was the moment that we knew we get our turn. We get one more turn. And that's all we needed. That one extra turn is all we needed to basically win. The moment he went battle phase is when we knew we won, basically. Because this means we
Sorry.
don't die.
Mhm. In this moment, I was screaming, bro, we cooked him. Let's go. And just he was like, Nash, be humble, my boy, be humble. Be respectful, bro.
Yeah.
Don't make my name dirty. Be humble. That was hella funny. And then I started making egg jokes. Guys, do you want to hear the egg jokes? Okay, what does an egg say to a scrambled egg in a discotheque? I'm lit.
You're so stupid, bro. I kept saying that joke. I'm like, bro, who told you that joke, bro? That joke is awful. Yo, what did the egg say to the scrambled egg, bro? I'm lit. That's so dumb, bro. I hate you. Anyways, so he attacks the Nib. We have to activate the red here because we want to force him to chain the DP. So we go red. He chains the DP as expected. Kills the DP, kills the Griffin. We had Aliber. Aliber and the thing make Lubellion. He's chainlink 1 DP. We're chainlink 2 Lubellion. Discard this for cost. He said thinking. We thought he had Bell maybe, but then it's not Bell, obviously. At that point, bro, it was so obvious he had Ogre.
Yes, so obvious, to be honest.
Like, at that point, it was like, bro, the only card that interacts here is literally Bell or Ogre. And he said think because he had to make sure that if he Ogres this, if it was still resolved. So I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened. Let me check. Yeah, there's the Ogre. There's the Ogre. So, like, I mean, that pause right there just gave us, like, free info. Like, it's really, like, when I play, and I have these thinking moments. I like literally have to like I have to like place like I have to like think when I have to think before this interaction even happens so my opponent doesn't get free info off me. Like I'm literally thinking if I can ogre Lubellion the moment like my opponent activates like red or something, for example. Or if they banish 2 before they even summon Lubellion, you just gotta immediately just think about it. Because you can't just give free info like this. Literally toggling IRL, yeah. There we summon the Mirror Jade at the DP activates, and then on a new chain, chain resolves at the patchwork. Yeah, it could be droplets for sure, but he would have to literally hard draw droplets, and he didn't hard draw droplets because he drew Nib off Dasher. And if he had droplets, he would have set it. So it's 100% cannot be droplets. Cannot be droplets or Chalice. No, it makes no sense. Just through process of elimination, logically, it could never be droplets or Chalice. Because he drew for turn Nib and summoned it. If he had droplets or Chalice from the turn prior, those cards were definitely being set. So, there's just no way. Like, he could have drawn off pranks, sure. Like, maybe. Maybe he could have drawn off pranks, sure. Like, that would have to be, like, the logical explanation. Rights. Activate rights. So, he's right here. He's gonna... we're just gonna banish the token. He's just gonna try to force out Mirror Jade, which is fine. We banish the token. At this point, bro... We thought he had a kid, and he was going to summon a kid and just, like, blow our whole field up, which is fine. And that's why we sent to Tinniclad, because we thought he was going to normal summon a kid, go climb up all the way to an access code, blow up all of our back row, and then at end phase, we summon Albaz. Albaz fused with the access code, or, like, the Bow Wow Bark or whatever here. And then we just make another Mirror Jade, and we just win. But it...
Yeah, like, Unicorn for access code,
Yeah.
put back the Mirror Jade in the extra deck, so
Yep.
he has basically an access code in the end phase, and then we blow up it with the... Yes.
Yep. So, it turns out he never had a kid. So at this point, we just go to Tinniclad effect.
And also,
Yep.
think about it. Like, he special summoned the Nibiru without having a kid. This also gives us an hint that he has possibly a Nibiru in hand.
Yeah.
Because why would you special summon an Entrap if you are not committing to a big play?
Yeah. Like, it was pretty obvious he had to have a second one because he has Celestial Dashel, right? And he needed to get cards out of his hand. Bro, this guy, he went to end phase with 3 cards in his hand. That means one of the cards in his hand is a card that is a hand trap for sure. It's a card that he couldn't set. And he drew a random off the pranks, right? So that means 2 of the cards in his hand are unknown hand traps. We just don't know what they are. But they're definitely unknown hand traps. One of them we read was Ogre because he thought on like the Lubellion. But the other one had to be something that he couldn't set as well, so...
Ogre could have been normal summoned in the worst case scenario, and if he was drawing a prank, it was still fine because he could have pitched it to special summon a token.
Yeah.
So logically speaking, could have been only Nibiru.
Yep. So we summon Albaz anyways at end phase, and then use Albaz to fuse with his monsters, and he ogred us. But like that was fine. Like it traded with the ogre, like which should never trade with us, but it's just like it was just like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like this is totally fine for us because we win next turn. So DP summons back. That's fine. Then we go rights. Get faithful because at this point we just want to bait out the DP. Secure baiting DP. Add Enchantress. Okay, we add Enchantress, pitch Enchantress because we want an extra card to pitch off opening. That's the reason. And we pitched rights here. Summon Aliber. Chainlink 1 Aliber. Chainlink 2 Faithful. This is where like baiting out the Ogre previously was really good for us at the end phase. Because now we basically guarantee Faithful resolving, allowing us to get Draco back to force out DP. That's basically was also kind of nice because we forced out the Ogre at the last end phase. Then we go Branded in red to see like what happens. Now, what do we do with this Branded in red? Obviously, we're adding back Albaz, right? I think a lot of people would make Chimera here, but we decided to do a better play. And the play is to make another Lubellion with the Albaz and the Aliber, because we get to discard Draco back for free off Lubellion, which re-equips to the token. And the Lubellion will be able to summon what? a Drago Sapelia, which answers DP immediately. And so that's exactly what we do. Like, it makes, like, because a lot of people in this instance would get really greedy on making Chimera. And I explained this to, like, a lot of my students on Metafight too, about, like, don't get greedy. Like, what does making Chimera do for us here? It draws us 1 card, and then you pop 2. But what 2 cards do you pop that gets you value? Popping DP is not good. Popping the Nib and the Scythe literally also doesn't matter. So what we decided to do was a better line that answers the DP guaranteed and still pushes us in like a winning direction.
Yep.
And that's a Lubellion line.
Yes.
Put it in
The
defense
Lubellion
because
line,
it can attack. Yep.
yeah. The Lubellion line, as you said, is also guaranteed, and it's a winning line because like we know the Dracoback is gonna bounce the DP, and like he has to DP on the effect of Lubellion, but he doesn't know we're gonna go for the Predaplant line.
Yeah. Because at this point, people are probably like, yo, we already have a Mirror on board, so like, what the hell do you summon? But yeah. The Albaz, shuffle back to Tintaclad, summon the Draco Sapelia, jerk back, re-equip, and then we bounce the DP. He changed DP. We changed Sapelia to negate. Now we cleared it for sure. Now this is where if you counted, we have summoned off of opening, a summon off the token, a summon off Lubellion, and a summon off Sapelia. If you were counting with me, that's 4 summons. And at this point in time, like, in the call, I was like, yo, put this guy on better having Nib.
We know he had an Ibiru.
Yeah, but we know he has Nib. I'm like, screw it, bro. Kill him. Because, okay, this line would be correct. This line would be correct if we play a second Draco Sapelia. Okay, so I wasn't saying that to be reckless, but there is a correct line here if we played a second Sapelia. Now, let's talk about the line. Pausing here is correct because this is 4 summons. However, it doesn't matter if he has Nib if we play a second Sapelia, and I'll tell you why. You go Brand Infusion, send Snow, and send Albaz. Then you activate Albion's effect to make another Sapelia. If he nibs us, we still have access to Snow. The Albion will set a red. And like we're still super up in advantage. But and we also clear his nib. So it's like really, really, really good. And we have a full graveyard, 14 plus cards. However, because we don't have a second Sapelia, if you go Brand Infusion summon Albion, there's like it's still not game. You still need to do something with it that makes it game. So unfortunately, because we don't play it, then it's not game here. So there's no reason to activate this and into the nib. Like into nib here would be so bad. It gets a card out of his hand for his Celestial Dasher as well. So we just say, yeah, he has nib 100%. We just have to play around it. So we just go to battle phase and we just attack the Scythe. The Mirror Jade is gonna be live on his turn again. And even if he goes nib to force out the Mirror Jade, right, in battle phase, that meets our agenda of as long as we don't die, we win next turn.
Tell them.
So, and that was our plan the entire time. Don't die. Just don't die. Just play for advantage. Just don't die. And that's exactly it. We attacked and passed. We have a live Mirror Jade. He goes Faithful, add Griffin, pitches the nib. And at this point, we were like, let's go! Easy reads. So we got rewarded. Pretty nice.
Also, chat. Remember, those plays follow the anti-COVID procedures, okay? Because they are clean as fuck.
No swearing. So he goes rights, summon Griffin. We're like, okay. Guess we're just gonna say whatever. He makes Unicorn here and doesn't know the ruling that Sapelia does not need to modify the level to negate. If it targets, you can just still negate. We already bounced the DP. So he goes like Mirror Jade and we just go negate. He draws 2 cards and it doesn't matter because we just Mirror Jade the kid. He normals after. So that's just game. Yeah, I'm currently live on Twitch if you guys are watching this on YouTube. So just huge shout out to all the people that are subbing. And if you guys want to catch me live, check me out at twitch.tv/packtcg. And you can also check out Nesh, who's commentating with me at twitch.tv/NeshTCG as well. N3SH TCG. But
Let's
we'll
go.
proceed with the rest of the game. Yeah, I mean, we just win this game, right? So
Yep.
now we're going to go into game 2. So let's see. So game 2, we open Albaz, Poly, Cosmic, Call by Snow. Really sus hand, to be honest. But we might get there, so let's see. I mean, we don't have an amazing play. Like right now, our play is to go Poly, Albaz, Snow, make Albion, activate Albion, banish Albaz, and the Albion on the board, make Mirror Jade, but yeah.
Okay, guys, a very interesting thing to know about Brackets is the fact if you don't interact against them, like if you don't interrupt their combo, they most likely are not gonna end with a DP. So
Mhm.
most likely their end bot will be Baubark, a Prankits, a token over a Magic, and then
A
the
Griffin.
Griffon,
The Griffin.
and the fusion of a Prankits set. Now, the thing is, this Cosmic is gonna trade with the Griffon. If I snipe the fusion of a Prankits, that's literally the first thing that comes in my mind. And then the Call by the Grave is gonna answer the power. So basically, Cosmic and Call by the Grave should answer, like technically speaking, the entire Prankits endboard. That's about it.
Yep. So, I mean, we basically opened God to beat it, so it's pretty good. Like, so we'll see how he plays his hand out. So he opened Wright's Kid, I think, right? So
Mhm.
standard Frank Kid line. Let's see how. I don't think you should misplay here, but okay, this is definitely a misplay. If you guys watch my prank kid videos, you should always summon green as the second kid. I don't know why they didn't, but I sure. Uh, here you go. Summon. There's also like another line where like you can actually play around Imprim Nib, but that's a whole nother like series to explain how. But the way you play around Imprim Nib is like you don't activate Griffin Rider here, and you wait until you make Dodo, because if you get Imprim Nib right now, you lose your whole board. But there's a way to be Imprim Nib if you have a prank and you have 2 prank kids, basically 2 prank kid and rights as well. But that's a whole nother like explanation. There's a lot of technical things you can do with prank kids going first. It goes special Griffin here. Effect. Okay, add pranks, summon green. Yeah, this is a very slow green, but activate pranks, pitch water. Make Karibo, make
Yeah,
Anaconda.
yeah, I don't really
Bro, I
get
did
this.
not understand this. I thought this guy hard drew Scythe. Right? Like, we all thought he hard drew Scythe. We were like, please, we gotta snipe the shit out of that Scythe. If he sets one, we beat Scythe Lock. Because we go Cosmic on 1, he has a Griffin, and then he goes DP effect, and then we call by the Scythe, and we win. Uh, so we
I mean,
thought...
that play works. That play works if he uses DP in his turn on Berta.
Yeah,
I mean, he has to.
he has to. I mean, he has to. Yeah, he plays around Super Poly, too. So I mean, I was very confused. This was a sequence. Also, the dasher from the hand was kind of nice for us. So he sets 2, bro. At this point, we were scrambling, bro. We were scrambling, because at this point we thought you hard drew Scythe, like, for sure. So we'll show you how we beat. We had to roll the 50-50. If he had Scythe and we miss the 50-50, we just lose. But like, we had no choice. There's no way to play around it. Yeah, he plays around
There
Super
is a
Poly.
there is a thing I want to add after we activate the Cosmic Cycle.
Okay. So we activate Cosmic and we just gambled. Yeah, we said let's gamble here because we understand our lose condition. We picked this one.
Okay, chat. Now, one of them is side in our opinion. The second one might be a floodgate. Now,
Yep.
what happens if one of them is dimensional barrier? If it's dimensional barrier, and I hit it with the Cosmic, and it changes dimensional barrier calling fusion. Funny enough, his DP is dead.
Yeah, his DP does not come back. So we actually hoped it was D barrier. We actually wanted it to be D barrier, low key. Like, it was fine for us to be D barrier. Because we would normal Aliber, like it's not fine, it's not amazing, but at least we kill his DP. You know what I'm saying? So doing
Yeah.
it in draw phase is very like advantageous for us too because it plays more effectively into barrier. Where like if the guy chains barrier, you can't summon DP back. Like that's so lit. Um,
Omelet.
but and it also turns off his scythe, right? If he hard drew it, so he ends up chaining cross out instead and calling rights of Armiger, which is fine. Then we go call by and draw phase still.
I mean, we do that because we have to bait the Griffin. Anyway.
We have to bait the Griffin, yeah. Then we go Aliber, bro. I mean, at this point, we bait the Aliber. He has to chain the DP to pop the Aliber. And at this point, we still have a play. Use Albaz Snow to summon Albion. His last card was Impermanence, so I mean,
We also did not mention the fact, like, when we entered the main phase, we knew it was not side. So that's why we committed the normal sum.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, that's a good point. I totally forgot about that. Let me refresh so we can talk about that again. Yeah, we actually thought more about this too. Like, we were debating, like, Nesh, Jesse, and I were having basically a debate. I'll fast forward it so we can get to that game set again. But we actually thought, what are the chances that guy has a potential scythe back there? And I think we came to the conclusion that it could never be scythe because based off the way they played game 1, they used scythe in draw phase, right? Before main phase 1. So we were pretty confident that they don't have scythe lock. But we had to still debate it because we weren't sure. Because we were like, yo, what if the guy just held his scythe lock and waited, right? If the guy waited and used his scythe lock, we were supposed to go poly first. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, that was a good point. Totally forgot about that. Thanks, Nish.
I got your back.
Let's go.
I'm late.
You're so dumb. Okay, yeah, so, okay, we do all the sequence, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yeah, anyway, so, yeah, now we go to main phase 1, right? And, okay, you can take this one, Nash.
Cosmic by default also plays around the cross out calling called by the grave. Because if we were using called by the grave, we could have cross out called by the grave.
Yeah, that would have been
funny.
bad.
That's funny enough, actually.
Yep. So in main phase 1, this was the debate. So, okay, when you think about technical play, let's talk about this really fast. When we think about technical play, it's broken down into like a couple things. But one of the biggest things about technical play is like decision trees, right? What plays do you have available to you? And which plays makes like in which direction do you go down? You know, like basically you're at a crossroads and it's either you go left or you go right. Sometimes it's a lot more complicated where you have to go left, right, left, right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot more complicated. Or sometimes it's not just left or right. It's like left, right, left, right, diagonal, up, down, jump up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot. But for the most part, you break your options into like these decision trees in which what plays do you do? And there's 2 plays presented to us here. Normal Aliber or activate Poly. Or normal Snow. Or normal Albaz. But those are not real options because those options make 0 sense, right? They technically are part of the decision tree. But they're only part of the decision tree if you're a bozo, basically. Like, those plays make 0 sense. Like, we can talk about them if you guys want. But the 2 plays are either normal Aliber or activate Poly. If the other 2 options are not even... They're decision trees. But they're plays we just would never even consider because it's bad, right? You normal Albaz here, you pitch Snow, they chain DP, that doesn't resolve. Yeah, you can just throw that option in the trash. Normal Snow book DP also is like terrible, does nothing, does not advance your game state. If you normal Aliber, you can try to grab like a branded fusion and maybe play from there. If you go Poly right now, you can try to use Albaz and Snow to make an Albion, and then you go Albion to a Mirror Jade, and he can't chain DP at any point in time. Also works. Now, which play makes more sense? If we're reading that back row is Scythe, then and activating Poly makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because Ash FTK, this guy right here, might be trying to get value out of his scythe. What I mean by that is he tries to pop the scythe lock and one of the cards in our field. And that literally doesn't matter if you activate Poly for Albion. So those are the things we're thinking about, right? But Alibur is technically a better normal because if you go Alibur and it doesn't get stopped and you add Brand Diffusion, and then you go Poly, it forces out DP and you get to go Albion after that, which is really nice. And then you can go Brand Diffusion and do whatever the hell you want. You also get to like Threatening Chimera, etc., etc. So at this point, we were arguing with each other, and we basically came to the conclusion it's probably not Scythe because if it was Scythe, he would have like popped it as early as possible because that's how he played game 1. I would be very surprised if they don't stick with that. So we pretty much were like, it's not Scythe Lock. At this point, it's probably something real, to be honest. But, we have to see and play into it. So, normal Alibur gets impermed. Activate Poly, he DPs it. We make Albion, it gets impermed. And we just lose. We just have to concede here. He has a recurring DP plus a draw 2 next turn and a guaranteed kid that we know that he added. So we're dead for sure. So no point to like kind of stall here. Just scoop it up and we go to game 3.
Someone would say, Nash, but if you sniped the imperm, then you were winning. No, because crossout would have hit called by the grave, so we were losing anyway.
Yeah, we're losing anyways. Yeah, that was also another thing to consider. That we were literally talking about that. We're like, yeah, we were never winning this because he had those exact cards in that combination. There was nothing we could do, and those type of games are like important to look at because you have to really make sure there's really nothing you could do. Because there are games that you lose where there's nothing you can do, but there are games where you lose where there's something you could do. The games you lose in which there's nothing you could do are like fine. That's Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Yeah.
But the games in which you lose and you misplayed, then there's something that you can fix and get better at. But in that hand, we were always losing. Like there is no sequence that gets us out of that. Kid right, cross out imperm Baylor. Like Jordan is saying. So it is what it is. That's Yu-Gi-Oh. That's just like, he drew better or he drew the right cards for our situation. That's fine. We go to game 3. So we have opening Patchwork, Branded Fusion, Poly, and Ad Libitum. I mean, this hand is actually pretty crazy. I think we can both agree on what we do here, which is Branded opening pitch Ad Libitum, right, Nash?
Yes.
Yeah, we just
There
played
were
it
a
on
point.
draw.
There were a point to which someone would have said, "Why don't keep the ad libitum in and pitch the poly?" And I would say, "Learn fucking Despia how it works in the combo because it's a double poly line. A double poly line. You're gonna see like
Yeah,
soon what's gonna
okay,
happen with
so
a double poly line."
the reason why we didn't pitch Poly is because we literally thought like 10 steps ahead and we figured out that there was a double Poly line that beats Ash on Brand Diffusion. And this, like, I don't think we got Ash, right, Nash? I don't think we got Ash. We should show that line, actually.
Yeah.
We'll show that line after, but the reason why you cannot pitch Poly is because there's a double Poly line that if you get Ash on Brand Diffusion, you end on the board still, actually. But that line is super, like, not obvious at all. And it requires branded loss. So we go branded opening here. We pitch Alibur, and then we go Alibur effect, and we add branded loss here. Now, a lot of people would add branded in red. A lot of people would add branded in red here. Well, it's because they don't play loss. But like I said, there is a line. There is a line here that beats Ash Blossom on Brand Diffusion. And we'll go over that line right after we talk about the next play because Brand Diffusion resolved, so it's like poggers, but okay, it resolved. So at this point in time, we were like, I'm lit because we didn't have to go for the neg ass play. There's a play, but it's some neg ass play we had to go for. So
Yeah, I mean, let's show it. Let's show it for the club.
okay, let's show
Come
it
on.
right now. Yeah, let's show it for the class. Let me see. Yeah, because it's a really hard line. It's a really hard line to see, especially if you don't play laws. That's why that's why it's like kind of a hard line to see. It does not stop Ash Blossom. So we have. I'm gonna set up on the side screen right here so I can get all the cards out.
Yeah, also there is a nice thing, like I was watching the Twitch chat going off during like this Ironman saying that let Nash lose because we wanna see Jesse Cotton play. Guys, Jesse Cotton was playing. I was with Jesse Cotton. Jesse Cotton was talking in chat with us. I was Jesse Cotton, okay? I am Jesse Cotton in this Ironman.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jesse Cotton was playing. So guys, you're watching me, Pac, and Jesse Cotton at the same time. Crazy, right? Crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, we were all playing at the same time. I wasn't reading chat that much. I didn't even know what was chat was talking about, but yeah, we were all playing together.
This
Okay,
is
so
this is Nash percent Cotton.
yeah. So this is the same line. We go Branded opening, pitch ad libitum, summon Aliber, add loss, activate patchwork. We're gonna grab these two, right? And then at this point, we go Branded fusion. Oh no, our opponent has Ash Blossom. Whatever. Then you go Branded loss. Um, and was there an extra card that we're missing? I don't think so, right? I feel like there's an extra card we were missing, maybe. Effect. Oh yeah, then we go Poly. We use these two. Make Lubellion, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. We discard this. Let me see if I'm doing this line right. Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 3.
Did
Oh
you
no
add
no 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 no
the
no no. We're not no. I figured it out. We're not supposed to. I know where I messed up. You're not supposed to, so okay, you go chain the bro. This play is crazy. That's why like I'm literally messing up. You go Poly and you use Aliber and Chain and you use Chain effect and Loss effect, but you don't trigger Lubellion. This right, I'm pretty sure. And then you uh add like patchwork.
wait, you
Oh
cannot
no no
summon
no!
Lobel.
Oh, I did this wrong. I did this wrong. That's why. Yeah, I literally did this wrong. Hold on. So you use these two to make Masquerade.
Yes.
You use this to make Masquerade, and then you activate Loss, and you activate Chain to add the patchwork, and you add another Albaz.
Yes.
Then you go Poly again. Sorry, chat. I'm literally messing this up because I literally forgot the line. Then you add Albaz, and then you use Masquerade and Albaz, and you still end on Mirror Jade. I mean, it's like really ass, but it still does it, you know. Um. So yeah. So I just totally messed that up, guys. My bad. But yeah, the way you do it is you go. I'll just read. You go Poly with the Aliber and the Chain into a Masquerade. You trigger Loss and you trigger Chain to add Patchwork and Albaz. Then you go Poly again with the Albaz and the Masquerade to make a Chain, and you have a Masquerade that comes back. I mean, it's neg as hell, but at least it gets us there. It gets on one interruption still, so it's not the worst. You just play to don't die. And you also have a Masquerade to come back, so maybe you don't die, but yeah. So that was the sequence. That's why we added Loss, because we want to end on one disruption still, basically. But yeah, we go for this line with Albion. We add. Yeah, this line is crazy. We go Chilling 1 Albion, Chilling 2 Loss, and we actually make a Masquerade. We then use the Albion and the Albaz here to make a Mirror Jade. And the reason why we didn't just hard make a Mirror Jade off the Albion effect is because we wanted to not banish Albion off Albion's effect. We wanted to put it in the graveyard so that we don't have to use Mirror Jade on our own monster.
Yeah.
That's why. So basically at this point we have a Mirror Jade plus a Brandon Red with the Snow. The Brandon Red, Snow, Mirror Jade, and then also if we get to Brandon Red, we also add a hand trap. So it's a really, really good end board. And the Masquerade is also like just free burn damage. You go start with Enchantress, that doesn't matter. Activate Rice, that doesn't matter. Yeah, so like the ruling with Branded Loss, for people who don't understand, is when you fusion summon something, so let's point we summon Albion, and you go activate Albion's effect and you activate Lost effect, they cannot respond to any of that because it's within the summon window. And then after Albion resolves the fusion summon again, they also can't respond within the summon of that monster because the last thing to happen was a fusion monster being summoned. However, if you make Lost Chainlink 1 and Albion's Chainlink 2, they can respond to the summon. They can respond on resolution because the last thing to happen was not a monster being fusion summoned. So it has to be that the last thing to happen was a monster being fusion summoned. Why is this important? Because if your opponent activates rights here and you chain Brendan and Red, they're able to respond to everything. However, if your opponent activates rights and they set up Faithful, then you activate Branded Red as Chainlink 1, then your opponent cannot respond at all. It's really important to understand this ruling. The last thing to happen has to be a fusion summon being performed. That's why if you have Meltdown up and you activate Schism and you use Schism effect to send a monster of the same attribute that you summon to the graveyard, your opponent, you're not under the Meltdown ability. Because what do you call it? Because the last thing that happened was you sending a monster to the graveyard, not you fusion summoning. Because it says fusion summon a monster, then send a monster with the same attribute. So the last thing that happened was you sending a monster, not fusion summoning a monster. The last thing, it's the same thing here. If you go Chainlink 1 right and you go Chainlink 2 Brendan Red, the last thing that happened was them placing a Faithful from the deck onto the Spell and Trap zone. It's the same thing where if you activate rights, your opponent and you place a Faithful from the deck onto the Spell and Trap zone, they actually cannot torrential that. Because the last thing that happened was not the summon of a token, but rather the placing of a Faithful adventure onto the Spell and Trap zone. Very important to understand like conjunction PSDT here. To understand whether or not you can activate activate torrential, or whether or not you can activate whether or not you can activate stuff on the resolution of a Brendan loss. So important to know your ruling, guys. Believe it or not, players like myself, Nesh, actually understand rulings, like at least to a certain point. Like you have to understand him to play a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! But you have to understand him in the context of how to play the game, not arbitrary rulings, right? Like you have to understand how to apply them. Like knowing rulings for the sake of knowing them, I always stress this, does nothing for you as a player. But knowing how they work and how to apply them to actual competitive gameplay will advance you so much as a player, because it like understanding this stuff will make stuff like less illegal things will happen in gameplay, all that good stuff. Like you really learn how to like abuse these like knowledge and mechanics of the game. So yeah, like definitely know, don't just memorize how things work, understand why they work. And I think that would get you further as a player, especially when it comes to like rulings and stuff like that.
I totally agree.
So he goes rights here. We literally don't care about this. Like until he puts like an equip on the board, we literally don't care. He activates Faithful Adventure to search. We're like, who cares, sir? Pitches a nib. We're like, sure. Activates Griffin Rider. We say sure. Oh, actually, we did not say sure. Why is that?
1 sec. We chained to not let him renegade.
Oh, but I don't think we needed to do this here. Now I know we did it this year, but we didn't need to because Griffin can negate Brandon and Red because Law says you can negate the activations of stuff to fusion summon. So probably a misplay from us here, I guess. I think it was more so that like he couldn't equip, like so that like he couldn't try to equip it, I guess. But it literally doesn't matter here. He changed droplets here. We're like, sure.
No, I think this was fine because then he keeps and he still threats. When we cut the token, he doesn't threat anymore.
Yeah, makes
Like
sense.
we were forced to Mirage at that point anyways.
Yeah,
Keeps.
because we were supposed to mirror jade the thing with the equip anyways. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Then we activate the Faithful event. He activates the Faithful to grab the... He places Draco back from the deck, which stops him from taking like 1200. Because if he adds Draco back and activates it, he takes 600. And activates the effect, he takes 600 again. Now on resolution, we activate Brenda and Red. And we add Libidum. And now we just do for the Chimera line. He can't respond to any of this. We use Lost to add... Lost to add, Libidum to Reborn, Chimera to pop. And now we have a Mirror Jade. We just Mirror Jade this. And we still have a hand drop on top of this. So it's just game, basically. And so that was pretty much game 3. Yep. Um, now let's go on to game number 3. This was against, I believe, PKs.
I
Uh,
think someone misunderstood when I said I'm Jesse Cotton. As I said, guys, chat, because I'm talking to Twitch chat,
yep.
Jesse Cotton was playing with us. So
Yes.
when I said I was Jesse Cotton in this Ironman, it's because Jesse was piloting the plays as well.
Yeah.
I'm I'm not saying like anything crazy, okay?
Hmm.
So please don't bash me. I'm Nash, I'm Antonio Papa. I'm a different person. Okay? That's
Yeah, that's just crazy. Yeah, we like I said, it was a team effort. We'll definitely say this was a team effort. We all worked
it is
together on the
definitely a
plays.
team. Bro, like our brain was
Yeah, we were going in like
eating up.
like we were going in like we were all in the lab like cooking, bro. Like we were going in like because sometimes sometimes like we have a friend who goes AFK during Ironmans.
Talk about that. That friend doesn't have a phone as well. Okay.
So we have a phone that goes AFK during Ironmans, but for this, all of us we were all in court together talking. No one was AFK, I promise. Um, so this is our hand. This is pretty standard. I mean, we open rights brand infusion, so I mean, we don't really need to explain the plays too much. But we go enchantress into rights to protect our brand infusion, right? Pretty standard.
Yeah, very standard, very
Yeah, we
standard.
get ogred on this. We said sure. Then we go brand infusion. There's an argument to like special enchantress make anaconda, but I think it's either you play around Valor Imprim or you play around and you play around Ash, or this plays around impermanence because we have branded in red to beat the imperm on Lubellion basically. So yep. We make Lubellion here because we don't have enough cards for Snow. Discarding Enchantress as free value next turn. We have access to basically the full board. We have a live Mirror Jade with Brenda in red. Pretty much nothing to really complain about, right? We set, made a misclick there. Tour Guide, we let this resolve because we literally don't care. He had graphs. So he summoned the graph from his hand, unfortunately. Special Psychic Tracker. Like I said, none of this threatens nothing. There's no Link 3 in the game that forces out anything. If he makes Unicorn here, target Mirror Jade, we just chain Mirror Jade. Like, it literally doesn't matter. And we still have Brendan and Red live as well. We probably, if he made Unicorn there, we probably would have to go chain Mirror Jade and then chain Brendan and Red. And we make Drago Sapelia, and then we bring back Mirror Jade. That would be the play. So even if he unicorns us, he goes hella neg. He also loses a card out of his hand. The card he summons off graphs just dies anyways. So like honestly, unicorn here was still winning. We still won because we have a Drago Sapelia and another Mirror Jade brought back. So so we just Mirror Jade the Break Sword, and I think he just scoops here because he had no other plays to do. So game 2, let's see what he opens. So we open like really bad. This hand is basically unplayable. We had to basically pray for a rip. So we'll just, I mean, we can just fast forward to the combo. I mean, we just kind of sat here for the stream entertainment, really. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we knew we were losing this. Like, there was a world we can still kind of win, but not very low chance, to be honest. So we just opened unplayable here, but that's fine. This is Yu-Gi-Oh. So most of our losses in this Ironman were just basically through either like things we could not control. So I wasn't too mad about this. Like I wanted to play as well as possible for you guys, for the people on stream watching. So I would say we all played really nicely here. But yeah, I mean he's just full combos. I mean nothing we can really do. Like I said, we just sat here for the stream and we just scoop. What did we draw? Like dog water, right? Would you ask? I think.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just if you guys wanna, we'll just fast forward this for you guys to enjoy. I mean, this is just freestyle combo, pretty nice. And on everything, I think Dragoon as well, like, right? Yeah, the freestyle combo, you know. He also negates his own Dragoon to make it 4K, kind of nice, flex on us a little. I like it. I like it. Yeah, we drew call by, so nothing good. Now it's game 3. We start first. Let's see our hand. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, bro, this
this
hand.
hand is very
Okay, so yeah, we can explain this hand because this hand we did a lot of really crazy plays. Um, So I think the first step is let's go to main phase, right? There's nothing we can do in draw or standby. So let's go to main phase and activate Enchantress. See if he has Ash Blossom for this, because that's the first thing that's really important. If he ashes this, we can go Foolish Burial, send Tragedy, add Aliber, normal Aliber effect, right? This hand is actually very suspect for a lot of reasons. Because there's no obvious line to go down, but we had to like test the water to see what happens. It resolves, and then we get drolled. This droll was very powerful. I'm not gonna lie to you. However, we figured out a very insane sequence that
I
ends on
mean,
the board. Yeah.
I have to say that Pac and Jesse figured it out because they were saying the play, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go over that point, and then I will explain what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, team effort. Yeah. So this play right here is, yeah, I have to swear a little. This play is actually insane. We literally played out of our minds for this one, but we'll show you. So we go right. We can't search, right? But what we do here is we go normal tragedy because we want to put it into the graveyard so that we can use the second effect of tragedy to banish itself to reset a branded spell or trap. And if you're wondering how we're going to get a branded spell or trap in the graveyard, and that's through Albion Dragon. Albion Dragon can be sent with Foolish Burial, and Albion send branded spell or trap for cost and put itself to the bottom of the deck. If it was in the hand, you get to draw a card. But if it's in the graveyard, you don't get to draw. You just send for cost. That's how it works.
Okay, now basically they were saying this line. For everyone who read Albion Dragon, it can be used in the graveyard. I didn't know that shit could have been used in the graveyard. I was like, when they were talking about Albion, I was like, bro, how do we summon Albion from the extra deck? You know, like I was like, how do we get into Albion? Because like Albion, like there is the main monster and there is the extra monster. So I was kind of confused. And after they said it like 2 or 3 times, I was like, okay, so I normal snow. And Jesse was like, no, you don't have to normal snow. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I was
Yeah.
like, bro, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So they piloted me through this entire line because I didn't see the line, chat. I actually did not see the line. That's what team effort means, guy.
Yeah. Team effort, boys. Team effort. Spam some lines for Nesh in the chat. But yeah, so that's what we do. So okay, we activate Draco back from the deck because we wanted to get cards in the graveyard for snow. Because I don't know if you guys see the line yet, but we actually will be able to Lubelli on our opponent's turn to put snow in the graveyard for another interruption. That's why we put extra cards in the graveyard on purpose. So it wasn't just for no reason. We activate Anaconda without using Foolish Burial yet because we want to make sure this resolves before we go for the line. It does, so we go Foolish, send Albion, send Brendan in red, put itself to the bottom of the deck, use Tragedy to reset the Brendan in red, and now we can use Brendan in red to add back Albaz. Albaz puts his chain into a Lubellion. Lubellion discards Snow to make a Draco Sapelia. And that's what we did. So you guys Duster, and that's what we did. We chained Brendan in red. Now this is Draco Sapelia. Discards the Snow. Now we have a live Snow with a Draco Sapelia. That is basically 1, 2, 3 interruptions. And the Mirror Jade gets us the follow-up. So we negate this.
I mean, there is a reason also.
Yep.
There is actually there is actually a very, very big reason for why we should negate that also, because now tour guide is level 1 and he cannot go into Cherubini, but
Yeah.
we didn't notice that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Tour guide becomes level 1, so he can't make Cherubini. So that's why we negated Sapelia, but we just we just went through it too fast, to be honest. The game was over anyways, but yeah. And that's pretty much it. Also, yeah, like, comment, subscribe to their YouTube channel right here, the Pranky Boys. I mean, they had a lot of courage, right, to come and I guess try to play us too. So huge props to them. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed the commentary and the gameplay with Nesh and I. I hope you guys learned a lot of like stuff from this video and some of interactions and plays that may not commonly be out there. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and let us know if you want us to do more content like this together. But yeah, Nesh, anything? Shout out to Nesh for doing this with me too. Check out his Twitch at twitch.tv slash
Shout out,
Nesh
shout out to
TCG.
you, Paki. Shout out to you, Paki. I love you, and
Let's go.
thanks, guys, for chilling with us during this entire report of our Ironman. Thanks to Luxury, obviously. Thanks to our teammates. Thanks to Jesse,
Yep, shout out
obviously,
to Jesse.
and shout out to the big grinder for staying, like, for making the co-commentate of this awesome Ironman. Thanks, everyone. So see
All right.
you
Thanks,
next
guys.
time.
See ya.